Okay, everyone, so a new month means a new quiz. So we are currently in November, so we are thinking about Remembrance Day. So I'm going to ask you some general knowledge questions about the First World War and about remembrance, and each question will have a multiple choice answer. So you'll have the choice between three different answers. Remember, this is pre-recorded, so if you think it's going too fast, please feel free to pause and take your time with each question. There is no hurry. Okay, question number 1. A 2-minute silence is held on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. But at what time was the armistice of 1918, which signified the end of the war, signed? Was it A, 11 p.m. the night before, B, 5 a.m, or C, 10 a.m? Question number 2. Which year did the Christmas truce occur between French, British and German soldiers on the Western Front? Was it A, 1914, B, 1916 or C, 1917? Okay, question number 3. How many ceramic poppies were created for the art installation Blood-Swept Lands and Seas of Red in the moat of the Tower of London in 2018? Was it A, 111,111, B, 246,888, or C, 888,246? Question number 4. What does the red poppy represent? Does it A, commemorate the soldiers that died in World War I and other wars, B, commemorate the countries involved in World War I and other wars, or C, commemorate the animals that died in World War I and other wars? Number 5. How many charities helped towards the 1914 to 1918 British war effort? Was it A, 180, B, 1,800, or C, 18,000? Okay, question number 6. How many horses were used by Britain in World War I? Was it A, 120,000, B, 1.2 million, or C, 12 million? Okay, number 7. What does the purple poppy represent? A, does it recognise the animal victims of war? B, recognise the landmarks damaged by war? Or C, recognise the families affected by war? Question number 8. In 2018, the 100th year anniversary of the end of the war, how many poppies were distributed by volunteers? Was it A, 40,000, B, 400,000, or C, 40 million? Question 9. How many memorial cenotaphs are there in the UK? Are there A, 20, B, 60, or C, 100? Number 10. How many women were in the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps? Was it A, 20,000, B, 30,000, or C, 50,000? Number 11. How many British people were evacuated from major cities during World War I? Was it A, 500,000, B, 1.5 million, or C, 4 million? Number 12. What does the white poppy represent? A, does it recognise the contribution of animals in war? B, promote peace instead of war? Or C, recognise the contribution of civilians in the war effort? Question 13. How many soldiers and labourers from across the Empire and Commonwealth served alongside the British Army in the First World War? Was it A, 1.3 million, B, 3 million, or C, 30 million? Question 14. How many veterans marched at this cenotaph parade in 2018? Was it A, 1,000, B, 10,000, or C, 100,000? And last question then, question number 15. What does the black poppy represent? Does it A, promote the end of all wars, B, recognise the contribution of civilians to the war effort, or C, recognise the contribution of Black, African and Caribbean communities to the war effort? Okay, well done for getting through all of that. Let's now go through the answers. So, question 1. A 2-minute silence is held on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. But at what time was the armistice of 1918, which signified the end of the war, signed? The answer was B. So the armistice of 1918 was signed at 5 a.m. on the 11th of November in a railway carriage in Compiègne, France. 6 hours later, at 11 a.m., the guns officially stopped firing in Europe and World War I was over. Okay, question number 2. Which year did the Christmas truce occur between French, British, and German soldiers on the Western Front? The answer was A. So in 1914, a series of unofficial ceasefires, known as the Christmas truce, took place between French, British, and German soldiers on the Western Front leading up to Christmas morning. It was only 5 months out of 51 into the First World War. Okay, question number 3. How many ceramic poppies were created for the art installation Blood-Swept Lands and Seas of Red in the moat of the Tower of London in 2018? The answer was C. So a whopping 888,246 ceramic poppies were made to commemorate the 100th year since the outbreak of the First World War. The poppies were made at the Tower of London and planted by volunteers, each poppy representing one British or Commonwealth serviceman killed in the war. Okay, number 4. What does the red poppy represent? The answer was A. So the red poppy is the most famous symbol used to commemorate those who sacrificed their lives in World War I and conflicts that followed. Wearing a poppy was inspired by the fields of poppies that grew where many of the battles were fought. The red poppy is connected to the Royal British Legion, a charity created by veterans of the First World War. They say the red poppy represents remembrance and hope. Okay, question number 5. How many charities helped towards the 1914 to 1918 British war effort? And the answer was C. So almost 18,000 charities for the British war effort were set up during the war. Many civilians, including suffragettes, children, and Belgian refugees, raised money for the troops by collecting food and selling home comforts such as chocolate and books. Question number 6. How many horses were used by Britain in World War I? The answer was B. So, an estimated 1.2 million horses and mules were used by British forces in the First World War, and approximately 716,000 survived. Other animals used in the war included dogs, pigeons, glowworms, and even dolphins and sea lions. Okay, question number 7. What does the purple poppy represent? The answer is A. So the purple poppy is often worn to remember animals that have been victims of war. Animals like horses, dogs, and pigeons were often drafted into the war effort, and those that wear the purple poppy feel their service should be seen as equal to that of human service. In particular, many horses were killed or injured in the First World War. Question number 8. In 2018, the 100th year anniversary of the end of the war, how many poppies were distributed by volunteers? The answer was C. So in 2018, over 40 million poppies were distributed by 40,000 volunteers. Number 9. How many memorial cenotaphs are there in the UK? The answer is A. So there are 20 World War I cenotaphs across the UK, but over 2,500 listed World War I memorials. Number 10. How many women were in the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps? The answer was A. So by the end of World War I, around 20,000 Women's Land Army volunteers had filled the gaps left by men, alongside almost 250,000 other women working as labourers on the land. Number 11. How many British people were evacuated from major cities during World War One? The answer was B. So 1.5 million British people were evacuated from major cities during the First World War, though the original estimate to be relocated was about 4 million. Evacuees included 673,000 unaccompanied schoolchildren, 406,000 mothers and young children, and 3,000 expectant mothers. For many children, it was their first experience of the countryside. So, question number 12. What does the white poppy represent? The answer was B. So some people feel that the red poppy glorifies war and conflict. Instead, they might choose to wear a white poppy. The white poppy is handed out by a charity called Peace Pledge Union, which promotes peace. They say that the white poppy commemorates people who died in conflict, but focuses on achieving peace and challenging the way we look at war. Question number 13. How many soldiers and labourers from across the Empire and Commonwealth served alongside the British Army in the First World War? The answer was B. So 3 million soldiers and labourers across the Empire and Commonwealth served alongside the British Army in World War One. Okay, question number 14. How many veterans marched at the Cenotaph Parade in 2018? The answer was B. So around 10,000 veterans marched at the Cenotaph Parade in 2018. Okay, so last question then. What does the black poppy represent? The answer is C. So the black poppy has two different meanings attached to it. It is most commonly associated with the commemoration of Black, African and Caribbean communities' contribution to the war effort as servicemen and servicewomen and as civilians. The campaign organisers say that while they also support the red poppy, they feel that the black poppy highlights this contribution and the place of Black, African and Caribbean communities in remembrance. Well done, everybody. You've done it. I hope you learnt something today, and let me know how you did.